WSSU Ram Nation, today's Monday. CIAA Media Day isn't until Wednesday, but I did get a sneak peek at the predicted order of finish. Once again, CIAA has rated us two Ram low, and I'm gonna point out the two teams that we should be above that we're not right after this intro. What's going on, everybody? It's SJG. Welcome back to WSSU Ram Nation. Guys, first off, can you believe it? It's July 14th. We are a month and a half basically from game number 1 against Tuskegee, the Red Tails Classic. Not the Red Tail Classic. Y'all, you can turn that into a whole different thing. Red Tails Classic, Tails with an S. Red Tails Classic. Going to be taking place. I'm actually on my way to Alabama right now, but I'm going over to SWAC Media Day and in Birmingham, so I'm excited about that. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please, guys, go ahead and like the post as always. We are now at over 600 subscribers, really trying to get to 1,000 by the start of the season. With your help, I know that we can do it. Shout out to everybody who watched the top 25 players of the 21st century video. I got a lot of feedback about it already, and again, it was really tough. It was tough, and even as I was editing it, I second guessed myself in some of the slots. But it is what it is. I had to go ahead and put out the list. But I will be making another video about people who didn't make the list that were definitely honorable mentions, and maybe they deserve to make the list. Again, you guys let me know who have watched the video down below, who wasn't in it that should have been in, who was too low, too high. Let me know. I think it's a really great conversation that comes from that. All right, but in the meantime, in between times, because your boy has to go, got to get on the road. A little birdie has slipped the CIAA predicted order finish. So every year, every football conference does this to get ready for the football season. They predict who will finish where in the conference. And so last year, WSSU was picked to finish 6th. And when the dust settled, we were actually much higher. We actually beat two of the teams that were picked ahead of us last year. But apparently that wasn't enough. The CIAA was not impressed. The CIAA was not impressed because you know what? We actually beat 3 teams. So last year we beat 3 teams that were ahead of us. Last year we were predicted to finish 6th. We were predicted to finish behind Bowie State. Waxed that. Shout out to my guy, breaking down the Bulldogs. Then Virginia State, who was picked to, win the conference. Smack those Trojans around. Shout out to AD Tiffany Dawn Sykes, and President Abdullah. Looking forward to seeing you guys when you come down to Bowman Gray in a couple weeks. And Fayetteville State was also picked ahead of us, and we finally slayed the Blue Ponies. Shout out to Coach Hayes and his program. Had a down year last year, but hey, they knocked some sense into Johnson C. Smith, so it was what it was. So anyway, all right, I know the entire predicted order finish. I've seen it. I'm not gonna take the CIAA's thunder on that. But what I will say is where WSSU is ranked. We are ranked in the top half, and we're ranked better than last year. I will say that. But there are 2 teams that are ahead of us that we beat last year. 2 teams that we beat last year, and we're going to see again this year, that are ranked ahead of us. One of them, Fayetteville State. Fayetteville State, they are the blue impersonators down there in Cumberland County. They got so many WSSU refugees over there. They want to be us. It's understandable. We got a Hayes that made our program great. They got a Hayes that is making their program stand out in a big way. Again, talking about Coach Richard Hayes. A lot of respect for him, all jokes aside. But His team last year went 4-5, below 500. Did not make the CIAA championship game once they took away the divisions, and they just kind of fell to the back of the pack. And we took care of business against them on homecoming. We did, and that was our first win against them since 2018. So, it's a rivalry we own, but they had been running that series for quite a while. Last year, we put a stop to it. Great game, overtime, homecoming. I know a lot of y'all were out. If you're the young Rams, if you're the YRs, the young Rams, you were over at the gravel lot. And if you were a little bit more seasoned, you might have been over the 1892 crew. You might have been on the campus by then, whatever. Great game. But WSSU came out on top, and yet, people still pick Fayetteville State to beat us. Even though the guy who really gave us trouble, their running back last year, he's gone in the transfer portal to South Carolina State. But, I guess everybody is just taking last year as a fluke, right? Fayetteville State, they're Fayetteville State. They got NC Promise. They've got, all these things going for it. They'll be back. And, we'll see. But they are slotted ahead of us, as well as another team that we beat last year, Virginia State University. Now, if you remember last year, VSU was picked to win the CIAA. They were picked actually ahead of Virginia Union, who was the preceding champion. CIAA is a league they don't do that often, but that's how much respect VSU had last year. But we came to Petersburg, Ettrick, whatever. They left the lights on. Tough game. HBCU go. We got a chance, and we didn't even. And also, we get on that too. Is HBCU go? We got something for you too, because we got something for you too. But anyway, tough, tight game. We won at VSU again, who was predicted to win the CIAA. Of course, the win counted for us. And it didn't count for them, and everybody seems to forget that. But last year, St. Aug dropping off after schedules were made. The decision was made to count the last 7 games for CIAA play. And so Virginia State, we were their first CIAA game. So even though we beat them, it didn't hurt them in the CIAA, which is crazy. Just bananas. It's crazy. It's bananas. And lo and behold, they also lost to Johnson C. Smith too. They lost to them as well. But when the dust settled, Virginia State and Virginia Union got to hold hands and love each other again and play in the CIAA championship game. Both teams finished only with 1 loss. Technically. Both teams finished with 1 loss, technically. And even though both lost to Johnson C. Smith and VSU lost to us, neither here nor there. Both teams actually did have 2 CIAA losses. I don't care what anybody says. But anyway, they got in, and then Virginia Union did what Virginia Union did, showed that they were the better team. Virginia State, got the chance to slide in because they got to play Bowie State. They got to play Bluefield State. They got to play Lincoln. They got to play ECSU. They would have food for the second half of their division, and that's because the CIAA South was finally tougher than the CIAA North, the old CIAA South, finally tougher than the old CIAA North. It's been the other way a long time, not gonna lie, but last year was different. So, anyway, those are 2 teams that are ranked ahead of us, Virginia State and Fayetteville State University. There's some other teams the other teams that are ranked ahead of us, I don't have a problem with because they both beat us. Even though one of them lost a whole lot of players, I will give them that respect. And the other, hey, they beat us. I mean, they beat us solidly. But those 2, Fayetteville State and VSU over WSSU, the disrespect. But you know what? Let's just be honest. WSSU is going to have to re-earn that respect. We know that everybody still loves to beat us, that everybody loves to come to Bowman Gray and beat us, or even beat us at home, still to this day, especially the older alumni. But the fact is, we have not won the CIAA championship since 2016. All right, it's 2025 this year. This is our longest drought without making the CIAA championship game, besides the time that we left the conference for like 4 years. So this is our longest drought ever. We got to pick up ourselves as a program. And so the charge is on head coach Robert Massey and his staff. After last year, a 7-3 record, first winning record since 2018, a big step forward. Again, a play away from beating North Carolina A&T, going 8-2 in the discussion for the playoffs. Last year was a step forward. This year has to be a step forward as well. Now, I know that they have lost a lot of talent. They will bring back Dalen Lee, who I expect to be the CIAA Offensive Player of the Year. I just expect that. But, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they won't even give Dalen that type of respect. Who knows? But anyway, they lost a lot of players. They lost Fleming. Shout out to him. They lost, just so many good defenders. They were a veteran team last year. They do have some holes to fill. They certainly have their questions, but I do feel like they deserve better than to be picked behind two teams that they lost to last year. Just me. But anyway, they got to win. They got to win this year. WSSU cannot go back. And I gave you, the fact that they have lost so many defensive players and so many veterans, including offensive lineman Keith Quick. So a lot of guys that aren't there anymore helped get that 7-3 record, but they can't go back this year. We cannot go back. No matter how many guys we lost, we just can't. This is season number, let me see, 2019, 21, 22, 23. This will be season 6 for Coach Massey. We haven't gotten close to the CIAA championship. Last year was the closest that we got. We got to win a championship. If we don't win the CIAA championship, we got it. We got to win it. If we don't win the CIAA championship, changes got to be made, because WSSU is not supposed to go a decade without being in the CIAA championship game, let alone winning it. We're just not supposed to. So the bar is the bar. We are who we are, and we're gonna be who we are. But this year, the pressure is on. The pressure is on Coach Massey. The pressure is on Dalen Lee. We believe that Dalen Lee is the best quarterback in this conference. We do. I stand by that. Last year, his numbers weren't as great as they could have been. They had some deer in the headlight games. He had some receivers drop balls. But this year, I'm expecting him to not only be the CIAA preseason Offensive Player of the Year, but we need him to be the Offensive Player of the Year and really cement his legacy. I just did the top 25 players in WSSU history in the 21st century. I need his name to be on that after the end of this list, and he has a chance to do that. So again, a lot of losses from last year, some pluses that we have. We had to go to Virginia State last year, and we beat them. They come to us. We had to go to VUU last year, and we looked like we forgot how to play football for a couple of quarters, but they come back to us as well. We also played Lincoln early in the year. Should be a dub, but we'll see. Games got to be played. But the only thing is we only play one traditional CIAA South opponent in Bowman Gray. That's when we will have our friends over from Salisbury, Livingstone. They'll come and be our homecoming opponent. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting season. Again, the bar has been set. I don't care what the CIAA says that we're picked to finish. It's championship or bust this year, and if not, we gotta kind of go back to the drawing board. So those are my thoughts. But you guys, let me know. What do you think about WSSU? Where do you think they'll finish? Give me a record prediction. I gotta see a little bit more before I do that, but let me know. Anyway, like I said, guys, I gotta get ready to get up out of here. The SWAC Media Day is coming up, so I'll be there for HBCU Game Day. We will have folks over at CIAA Media Day. It's going to be in Durham this year, so that's a cool thing. So, but yeah, let me know in the comments, what you guys are thinking about this season, how you're feeling, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.